If you've ever been to Van Nuys, in the heart of the San Fernando Valley, you might know this place. It's a stunning Japanese garden. Waterfalls, stone lanterns, winding paths. Couples even get married here. It's calm and it's beautiful. And right next to it, actually part of the very same facility, is something entirely different. A massive industrial water plant. Concrete, pipes, machines, humming day and night. Now here's the twist. The water flowing through this peaceful garden comes from that industrial plant. The water going into the plant, well, it starts in your sink, your shower, and toilets of millions of Angelenos. For more than a century, Los Angeles built its water future on mega engineering, aqueducts stretching hundreds of miles from distant mountains and the Colorado River. That imported water made Southern California possible, and it's been our lifeline. But the lifeline is under strain. Climate change, historic drought, growing uncertainty. The old system just isn't enough anymore. So water managers faced a new question. What's next? How do you create a reliable, drought-proof water supply that's right here and at home? Part of the answer is water recycling, taking water that's already been used and cleaning it again and again and again until it's pure enough to use once more. Well, I'm your host, Charlie Wilson. Today on our show, we dive into the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant expansion and what it means for LA's water future. We'll talk with Anselmo Collins of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the man charged with managing the city's vast water system. We'll hear from Joe Broughton of Jacobs Engineering, who is helping to build this massive project. And we'll get perspective from Eileen Alduinda of the Council for Watershed Health, an advocate for our local rivers and groundwater. We're asking, is this the future of urban water? And what does it really take to turn wastewater into one of the city's most valuable resources? That's coming up on What Matters, Water TV and Podcast. So let's dive in. Well, welcome, Anselmo, Eileen, and Joe. Thank you so much for being part of What Matters, Water TV and Podcast. Anselmo, I got to start with you because we've kind of set this thing up about, Tillman. But really, what is the Tillman? It's a long sentence, water replenishment project. And what does that mean to Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, first of all, Charlie, thanks for the invitation to be part of the podcast. And yeah, Tillman, it's a very exciting project for the city of LA. What it is a partnership between LA DWP and LA Sanitation. Tillman is a wastewater treatment plant that we are working with them in developing advanced treated recycled water. So what the project entails is basically taking the wastewater that Tillman receives, treating it to really high levels, and using it to recharge the groundwater basin in the San Fernando Valley. Then when the project started, we were aiming for 25 million gallons of water per day. But while we were in construction, we realized that we had an opportunity to expand that even more. So now we've expanded it where Tillman is going to be able to provide 45 million gallons of water every single day that we're going to use to recharge the San Fernando Basin. That happens to be the largest basin that the city of LA has access to. So it's extremely important to us. And we felt that this was a great opportunity to be able to maximize the amount of recycled water that we're using for beneficial use. The goal for us is to minimize the amount of purchased water that we need to import. Right now, 90% of the water we serve is imported. And we want to flip that so that most of the water is locally sourced.
So look, I got to follow up because one of the things that we have learned in Southern California is because our water is either in pipes or in the groundwater, right? They don't see the lakes. They don't see the rivers. It's not like the LA River is full all the time, like, say, the Sacramento River in Northern California. Mm-hmm. How you said it's the largest, the basin there is the largest in LA, but what does that mean? Are we talking about lake size? Are we talking about, that is a big underground area.
It really is. So just to put it in perspective, the city of LA has access to multiple groundwater basins. The San Fernando Basin has a capacity of approximately 550,000 acre feet. We also have access to Central and West Coast Basin. Those two together are around 450,000 acre feet. Mm-hmm. So what it really tells you is that that's an awful lot of water that we can store in the groundwater basin. That is water that is drought-proof, that we can pull out of the ground and use it anytime that we need to. And as you know, in California, we have climate whiplash all the time. So in those years that we have extreme droughts, We're not getting enough water from the LA Aqueduct. We're not getting enough water from the State Water Project or the Colorado River. We have the ability to use this water that's going to be right beneath our feet in the groundwater basin in San Fernando.
So for the average consumer, right, that's our dam, right? That is Diamond Valley, but underground, right? You just don't get to see it, but it works the same way. You put water in, we take water out.
Yep. And
Got
just to
it.
put it in perspective, our demands on a yearly basis for water is a little bit less than 500,000 acre feet. So right there it tells you that there's that much storage in the
Yeah.
San Fernando Basin. Now, there's other people in other areas that can actually use that water too, but it's a pretty large reservoir that's on the ground that we want to maximize our ability to replenish. Keep in mind, it
Right.
doesn't rain that much in LA. So whatever we can capture from storms is great, but to have consistent supply that's going to the groundwater basin, we're going to use recycled water. And Tillman is the first of many projects, but certainly one of the biggest ones that we're implementing right now.
Like everything in Los Angeles, it's big, right? And good news, it's really big. Bad news,
That's
it's
right.
really big. It's got lots of complexity. Eileen, so this has got to be, because it's not some above ground, it's not a dam, it's not some historical sort of manufactured storage area. I got to believe a project like this has some pretty significant environmental and basin benefits to it. How is it that you became involved in this, and why do you see this as being something of significance for Los Angeles?
Yeah, thanks, Charlie, for inviting me to join this great conversation around this really important local water resource. Our founder, Dorothy Green, had great insight and foresight in terms of the importance of recycled water. She talked about it in her book. And throughout the years, we've been, kind of working on watershed health in a different way, mainly focusing on stormwater. And now in the most recent years, we've been working with our partner agencies, looking at all the water resources, including the potential for recycled water to be part of our local water supply portfolio. The work that we've been doing with the green infrastructure to manage stormwater is part of that, because it's a local water supply and it's focused in on reducing our reliance on that imported water. And so when we look at the wastewater being treated to a purified point and then replenishing our groundwater supplies, that's another really important aspect for reducing our reliance on imported water supply. So that's kind of a really important aspect in terms of the work that we're doing now.
Okay. Well, Joe, you got kind of a big, hairy, audacious project, an opportunity to double its size. I got to imagine as a contractor, hey, that's not bad work if you can get it. And Jacob stepped forward and say, yeah, we can make that happen. But that doesn't come without certain challenges and technology that has to go into this. So as Eileen was talking about the need for partnership and collaboration, this doesn't happen unless those that are actually doing the work are collaborating, not just with the public agencies, with the environmental community, with the water community, but how is it that Jacobs fits into this, and how do you see these things developing from a technological and engineering standpoint?
Yeah, Charlie, I'd like to back up a few moments. You mentioned a partnership, and many of us that have been involved from the proposal stage to where we're at in construction today, we often use the term marriage or a family. You've heard us say this. I think Anselmo's used that term often. It really takes a large group of companies, people, resources to make something like this a reality. And so we saw the marriage between the various city agencies and how they were coming together to make this project function for the city, and we wanted to be a part of it. So I was involved with the proposal, and it was a target for Jacobs, not just with business and large project, but importance of where this was going. But you mentioned innovation and engineering. I want to point out a couple of things, Charlie. The project was conceived at a smaller flow rate, and so first of all, we took a look at what we can do to maximize capacity, how we can make the water quality fit for purpose and right for the project. So the marriage began with this big audacious goal, but it takes small discrete steps to really bring that to reality. And we're so proud to be a part of this and be a participant.
Well, so I got to stick with that for a minute, Anselmo, okay? Because I know, as right, wrong, or indifferent, yes, Los Angeles, LADWP, LA City Sanitation, these are big organizations, and oftentimes it's a lot of folks love to hate, right? Because it's big and it's bureaucratic, and boy, it just seems to take so long, particularly when you're taking any kind of sort of sizable project, and you started with a sizable project here, and then as you described, in the middle of it there was an opportunity and we doubled it. And I got to believe at that point you had a lot of folks who went, oh. So so talk to me more though about taking this and really, I mean, I've seen the construction site, we've been out there. This is not theoretical anymore. This is happening. This is steel in the ground. This is cement. These are people actively out there making this happen. This is not just, hey, we promise you by the time the Olympics arrive, we'll have something good. Trust us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's certainly a big project. And, it's interesting because when we started working on this project, we were very excited that we were going to build a facility that would produce 25 million gallons of water per day. There was an opportunity that we had. We realized that within the footprint that we already had for the project, we could actually expand the project and be able to increase the capacity. But here's where the collaboration comes into play. We've been having a lot of conversations with LA Waterkeeper, with Heal the Bay, and they were like, Anselmo, it's great that you guys have started working on Tillman, but you know what? It'd be really good if you guys can make it a little bigger and maximize as much as possible Tillman, because as you know, we're working on a bigger program, Pure Water LA. And Pure Water LA is looking to recycle the water from Hyperion. Part of the idea there is to pump some of that water from Hyperion all the way up to the San Fernando Valley and to our filtration plant. So in speaking with Bruce Resnick and also speaking with Tracy, they said, but if you were to maximize Tillman, maybe you can downsize that big old pipeline that you plan to build in from Hyperion. So we kept looking and realized, you know what? That's a great point. So I have some really smart folks that work for me, luckily, they're smarter than me for sure. And they decided, hey, we can do this. So they worked with Jacobs and they realized that, yes, we can actually do this. So it was interesting. As soon as we started talking about the potential to pretty much double the capacity, it was a lot of excitement. You would expect people to be hesitant. You would expect people to be doubtful. This was the contrary. Everybody was extremely excited to say, you can do that? Let's do it. By the time we got to our board to get approval of the expansion, they all were extremely supportive. We had all the NGOs that showed up to that meeting and to provide 100% support for this idea. So it really talks about that collaboration, right? It's not just the municipal utilities, it's not just the contractors. It also involves the NGOs, the environmental community, all working together. We also have an opportunity here, and this is to the benefit of everybody. That means that we are going to be able to drought-proof the region by now having more water in the ground accessible when there's a drought, or God forbid, at some point we're going to have an earthquake. The aqueducts that bring water to the city of Los Angeles, all three, LA Aqueduct, the State Water Project in Colorado, all cross the San Andreas Fault. The day that happens, having the ability to pump water from the local groundwater and use it is really a huge monumental task for us and a great accomplishment. So yes, this was met with a lot of excitement, and we're really looking forward to seeing the project completed, which by the way, by 2027, and Joe's gonna have to promise me that we're gonna be done.
Yeah, and so I'm going to offer this. And Charlie, you asked, we were super eager to make this a reality, but we shouldn't kid ourselves. We were excavating, we were about to place the first concrete pour when the expansion idea occurred. And there were a lot of nights and weekends where we weren't certain that we could pull this off. But over about a 2-month period, the industry's best experts really studied this from a citywide perspective. Client owner advisors, Jacobs engineering and constructors, subcontractors, suppliers, everyone engaged with a pretty simple mentality that there was a message, LA first. If all of us can think about what's best for LA and put preconceived notions about this is a crazy idea to pause construction and expand down, we still feel it today. Like that excitement that Anselmo is resonating. It's through everybody to make this a reality. And now we're in the deep part of the structure where the expansion is occurring.
Well, and as you guys have both been indicated, right, this is part of, I know for those of us that are the water wonks of the world, there are a lot of folks who like to lock themselves around a project. That's the solution, or that's the solution, and we sort of silo ourselves. Well, what I'm hearing all of you say is this is the kind of project that creates real resiliency. This is really an insurance product. This is both a to daily freshwater opportunity. It is an insurance policy. But Eileen, right, you guys came at this very specifically with watersheds, because what we're really doing here is we're closing the loop. We're no longer taking the wasted water. The concept of wastewater is kind of a myth now anyway, right? Nothing should be wasted.
Right.
We're closing the loop, and instead of putting that water back out into the ocean, we're bringing it back for productive use, whether it's people and or watersheds, which means we're also capturing the environmental benefit out of this. So tell me, give me a little bit more about that and how you see this improving watersheds within, the Los Angeles area, something other than concrete lined channels.
Right. Well, yeah, there definitely are watershed benefits with recycled water, right? There's the fact that it is a local water supply using our local water groundwater basins to replenish. There is less water wasted going out to the ocean. However, we do want to make sure, and we know that there is that balance of flow happening as well, to ensure that all those areas that need the water are receiving it. So there's a benefit there. And then there's also the benefit beyond our own watersheds to those where we are relying on imported water. There's a cost to those watersheds outside of our region that's important to keep in mind. And then there are the opportunities also to improve our local watershed by complementing where that replenishment is happening by other projects, and learn from those as well. So I think that, what we're learning is that when we're focusing on the local water supply, there are a lot of different benefits that are coming now and in the future as we expand out.
Right. And Joe, as you talked about your partnership, right? Okay. Yes, you guys get to be the overseers of the construction, design and construction. But as I have been to the site and I have seen the work going on, this is a massive jobs program as well. I mean, there were people everywhere with equipment and with blow torches. I mean, people that get, dirt on their shoes, people that work with their hands. I mean, there was a lot going into this thing, not just, so this is what I like to refer to then. This is that multi-benefit sort of program that truly everybody seems to be winning from. But talk to me a little bit about, the other, subcontractors and the labor and what goes into this and what that means then to the local economy.
Yeah, Charlie, and I'm going to highlight a situation. We placed concrete this morning at 2 a.m. Right. And Selmo.
Thank you for not calling me for that. I would love to have been with you, but thank you.
And Selmo mentioned the deadline. By the way, the deadline didn't move when we expanded the project. So he didn't put any pressure on the team at all. But when you have a project of this size and complexity, and then you expand it, you hold a deadline. We've said this, it takes a village. This morning at 2 a.m., there were hundreds of tradespeople and craftspeople there at site. And Selmo's leader, Jesus Gonzalez, was there at 4 a.m. And that's part of the culture of him bringing coffee and donuts to people that had begun work that morning. But maybe some specifics for you, Charlie, and Selmo and Eileen. There's about 100 plus companies involved with Tillman, with the design and construction. There's 30 small local businesses that are providing engineering, technical, and construction services, 500 craft jobs at the peak of construction, working shifts. But I've looked this up this morning. I want to highlight, we have a transitional workforce goal. And what I mean by transitional workforce is this is benefiting us from the environment, from a sustainable supply, but the jobs are benefiting a broad range of individuals. And the transitional workforce, they've had a a difficult past or a checkered past, and they're making that jump into this career path, and we're meeting those goals as well. So it's not just big business, Charlie. It's an individual contribution and a reward that we're so proud of.
Well, and I got to believe, right? Okay, part of the reason that a company like a Jacobs is selected for a project like this is that you've done other projects of varying sizes and complexity. What kind of lessons have you learned from those other projects that you're able to apply here to create some of the efficiencies that Anselmo talked about?
Yeah, I'd love to share best practices. Ryan Tia from LA San, we talk about writing a book. Maybe we'll have more podcasts to talk about Tillman. But just a couple of concrete actions that the city and Jacobs have taken. We went to a kickoff, Charlie, February of 2023, and all stakeholders were in the room. That's post-COVID, that's not as common as it used to be. But those 30 to 40 individuals were there. We outlined the first 100 key decisions to be made, when we need to make them. And Jesus and Ryan rolled up their sleeves and started that day. We've continued that process with every key decision and workshop is in person. It's been highly beneficial to be at the project site. I can't stress it enough that their teams, the operation staff, we had access to all of them. It wasn't set up a conversation in the future. It was let's do it right now. The city committed to making decisions quickly. They set an internal goal of not letting a decision linger more than 21 days. And in many cases, they made the choices right on the spot. And I don't think you can stress what mega projects, how they benefit from quick decisions and having that information at your fingertips. So those are key kind of project management and delivery aspects. I think I keep coming back to culture. There's a lot of intelligent people involved. And when we're in the room together, it's putting the decisions on the table and making them for what's best for the project. You can't tell who works for who at times out there. It's quite impressive. The vest I'm wearing right now has all the logos on the back. We pride ourselves that it's a team effort and it's really coming to fruition.
Well, I have to say I have been privileged to have been invited out to one of those community sort of launch points when you guys dug the official, first spades of dirt for the expanded version of the plant. And that's what struck me, Joe. It was, there were a lot of people from a lot of different places, a lot of different entities, a lot of community organizations, a lot of folks from City Hall, a lot of people from the utilities, all the union guys, everybody there. And it was like one giant family. It's like, here's what we're doing. Hey, look at this really cool thing we're all about to make. And I thought that was very special. But I have to ask then, Anselmo, okay, great news, great news, great news, right? Collaboration, family, good for everybody, good for the jobs. But the question about recycled water, about local water projects, about all water projects, any utility project anymore, is cost. And what does this mean? There are certainly economic benefits, which Joe touched on, but how is it that you guys analyzed, you looked and you worked through this that said, okay, you know what? Here's what we're expecting these things ultimately to mean to those who are our consumers. We can do this really great thing, but here's what it means to our consumers. And here, how did you do that economic analysis on that cost benefit approach that made it a clear go? Hey, we got to do this. And as a mega project, we're going to double the size and go.
That's interesting. That's a great question, Charlie. But, a lot of times people say, well, what did you compare it to? Aren't they cheaper sources of water that you could tap into and use? And the reality is that if you go back to 2022, which was not that long ago, the state was in a situation where it did not even have water to sell to its wholesalers. So when you think about economic analysis, what are you comparing it to? To me, I'm comparing it to what's the economic impact if the city of LA does not have enough water for its customers and its businesses to be able to thrive. The technology that we're using, yes, is cutting edge, but also it's been around for a little bit and folks have been using it Obviously, you can compare it to, for example, desal, which I know there's certain parts of the state that are using it, but we also know how difficult it is to do desal, especially based on where the valley is, the East San Fernando Valley is compared to where the ocean is. We think those costs are comparable, and actually we can do better with recycled water. When you think about comparing it to the cost of purchased water, well, we know the cost of purchased water is going up pretty much every year. But also knowing that that water is available is a big question mark. So what we're doing is investing in the future resiliency of the city of LA, ensuring that we have water regardless of what's going on hydrologically in the state. So there is a cost to pay there, absolutely. But knowing that we have a supply of water that's consistent and constant and reliable becomes extremely important to us. The city of LA has been doing recycled water since the 70s with purple pipe. We used to do a lot of irrigation, golf courses, and things like that. We now are evolving into indirect potable reuse. We are standing on the shoulders of what Orange County did with recycled water and recharging groundwater basin. Our next goal is to do direct potable reuse. And as a matter of fact, the project at Tillman, we are looking at potentially doing some direct potable reuse as well. That will be a great way for us to demonstrate that the technologies and the treatment trains are efficient, especially as we move towards doing pure water LA. So from a cost perspective, I see that as just being one element that we have to look at. But the biggest thing is, what is the benefit that it brings? Is that stability that it brings to the region to know that regardless of what's going on, we're going to have enough water for everybody to be able to use.
Well, I think that's kind of what I hear, right? It's part of that multi-benefit program. It's not a this or that. I had a very smart water person tell me not very long ago, say, hey, Charlie, it's not about the projects, plural. It's about how do we articulate the value of what it is that we're bringing to the table, because it's not about that one particular increment. But then I also then, because I'm a bit of a, smart ass from time to time, as you guys all know, and that was, well, okay, you can talk about rates and we can talk about acre feet of water, but that's water wonk speak. Really, in the meantime, we got a lot of people that are willing to pay, $4.50, $5 a gallon for gasoline to drive their SUV down to the Costco to pay 1,000 times more for bottled water and bring it home. And then they're concerned in quotes, about the cost of my water. Now, that's not to be, dismissive, but it is an illustration as to the opportunity in talking about the value, as you described. This is an insurance policy. It is locally sourced water. It is there so long as we have the system closed. If something happens, right, I can still keep our multi-trillion-dollar economy, jobs, and
Exactly.
health and human safety of my population, my water customers, fully intact. What is the value of that? And Eileen, it comes back then watersheds, and you've got the environment. So it's not even the case where it's the project versus the environment anymore. We used to like to present things as an either or. This is not either or. This is and conversation, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And it's also kind of interesting to think about, like, what is the cost if we don't do if we don't do this water supply? Because it is untenable to continue to rely on things that are unpredictable from other regions. So I think this comes back to what are those benefits, right? I'd like to kind of sometimes focus on this technology and innovation of what's happening here, because there's the technical aspect of taking wastewater and creating a water source that is pure. And when it's pure, it also means that there's less contaminants in it that are either flowing into our drinking water supply or flowing out into our rivers, out to other habitats, right? So there's some other benefits that we need to be thinking about too, in terms of the economic and the environmental costs, that maybe we get more from recycled water rather than not doing it.
Yeah, I love those taste tests where I love those taste tests where we're not drinking microplastics from a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
We're
Charlie,
actually getting it tested. But yeah.
One thing I want to add about the cost, especially with this particular project, and this is something I'm very proud of, is we were able to secure half of the capital cost for this project from outside sources. That just tells you that people recognize the importance the importance of implementing these kind of projects. We
Well,
got federal dollars, we got dollars from the state, even the Metropolitan Water District, which is our wholesaler, provided some funding for the project as well. So being able, especially when we went to the board to get approval on the original project, there were a lot of questions about cost, like you were asking, and being able to demonstrate that we had done a really good job in securing outside funding made a huge difference. I think that all these projects that we're working on now, and when I say we, I'm talking about the water community in Southern California. There are many recycled water projects that are being worked on. They are expensive, but I think we also recognize that first of all, we got to work together, because if we can integrate the projects, we can now spread that cost amongst a much greater number of people. Also, when we're applying for funding, it's a lot more attractive when you are applying for funding for projects that have regional benefits. It's not just LA. Now it becomes Southern California. And that makes a heck of a big difference when you're telling somebody in Sacramento or DC to invest and to provide funding for these projects. So that's been very effective as well.
Well, I like that piece of it as one who's been on the advocacy side of some of this, and having sat in the Washington and Sacramento offices. You weren't taking advantage of someone else. You were undercutting someone else. This was part then sort of transitions us to a truly regional benefit. This is not just for Los Angeles, but this would ultimately have some regional benefit. Tell me more about that. Now, how does that work from a regional lessons and sort of a broader implications?
Well, I got to tell you, I think there's many different benefits here. Let me start environmentally speaking. You know, like I said before, we get a lot of water is imported, either LA Aqueduct, State Water Project, Colorado River. These are all areas that have environmental challenges, right? So by us developing local water supply projects, our reliance on that imported water goes down. So you are not impacting areas that already have environmental challenges. That's a benefit for everybody. We always hear the stories about folks from the north saying, "Oh, the folks in the Southern California are taking our water." Well, guess what? Now we're building projects that reduce our reliance on that. You
Right.
know, we know the Colorado River still hasn't recovered. If you go out there and you look at the water elevations of the reservoirs, it's still pretty low. So having projects that we develop here from an environmental perspective, it has a big benefit. I think also it's not just California, but it's all the other basin states, right? That actually get water from the Colorado River. So to me, that's important. The other reason why I think it's important to have these regional projects is because, let's face it, not every city, not every agency has the resources to implement these type of projects. However, if we work together and we partner, ourselves partnering with LA Sand, partnering with the county on stormwater capture, partnering with Metropolitan Water District on recycle projects. Now, those smaller agencies that may not have a voice to be able to say, "I'm going to build my own project," are benefiting from these programs. To me, that's the real benefit of these projects, and having that regional component to it. It's benefiting everybody. Nobody's left behind. And Southern California as a whole will be a lot more resilient and reliable because of it.
Well, and maybe I just oversimplify these things, right? But it just seems basic, like a 4-year-old, right? Yes, it's raining more than it's snowing, and we're going to get heavier storms. When we get big, heavy storms, there's an opportunity through those State Water Project, Colorado, LA Aqueduct, move the storm water when it's big and abundant and available. Then you've got you've got a basin to put it in the San Fernando Valley. That's where we store that flood water. Now we have it for the dry years, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 dry years, where we can utilize and maximize our local groundwater supply with our local recycling program that benefits not just our customers and protects them, but protects and enhances our watersheds and our environment. Am I missing something in that equation? And I guess I start asking the question in public meetings, why is it so bloody complicated for people to get the full cycle and benefit out of?
You know what? I don't think you're missing anything. I think we just need to do, as an industry and as a sector, a better job at educating our consumers. They need to understand this. A lot of people just think of water as I turn my faucet on, and as long as it's water, I'm happy. And I don't think they really truly understand how complex getting the water and ensuring that we always have it is. Our job is to educate them. And that's why with projects like this, one of the things that we're doing is a learning center. So we're going to have a learning center at this facility where now you can have elementary, school kids, you can have high school kids, college kids, even adults go and learn about recycled water. It's important for them to know because one, they'll know where the water's coming from. Two, they'll understand all the steps that we're taking to ensure the safety of that water. And keep in mind, a lot of the kids in elementary school, when they are adults, they're the ones that are going to be paying the rates for some of these recycled water projects that we're going to build in the future. We want them to grow up with a level of certainty and comfort that recycled water, especially advanced treated recycled water, is safe for consuming. So we have to do a better job in educating them. And what better way to do it than taking them to the areas where we're doing the work, showing it to them, letting them taste the water, letting them see exactly what we're doing. And I think that's the kind of tools that we need to use to educate the public at large and also educate our politicians and everybody else so they understand the value of these type of projects.
If I could add on to what Anselmo was saying, because it goes back to that regional opportunity in terms of those broader implications, is that when you have these regional projects coming online, or even in the planning stages, right? We've got Tillman coming online, and then we've got a couple of others in the planning stages. It's really important to make sure that there's a consistent message happening, right? There's a really, really important opportunity to continue educating everybody on the value and the benefit of, again, this really important local water supply, and that coordination among agencies, their communication teams, their engineers, to make sure that there's a consistent vocabulary, that it is coordinated messaging, and then the informal ways that we all learn. The education centers are really important. It's those informal conversations that are also really important too, that happen between your workforce that is there and their families and their friends and who they know in the community. There's a really important opportunity to kind of reinforce these messages. And that's one thing that the council has been working on, to understand what that needs to be, and bringing people together to make sure that there is consistency in that message, at least among our partner agencies right now and our community-based organizations who are really good at getting messaging out. And I know there's a lot of coordination happening with the agencies that are leading these projects and their community-based organization partners. And we want to see more of that happen throughout the region. And it's going to make it'll make a big difference in terms of that message getting out to everybody.
Absolutely hear you on that. For an organization regionally that claims to represent some 29 million of the state's residents, that you can't communicate enough to be able to penetrate and
Right.
have everybody sort of help, not just hear it, but understand, and then be able to say, hey, now I have enough information to make an informed choice of my own. And so I don't get in my car and drive and buy, water at Costco anymore, because I know that what I'm getting out of the Tillman treatment plant is pure and safe and good for my kids. And it's part of my local community. So actually that all seems to start to work as well.
Charlie,
So
one thing to really educate, you have to reach a broad audience, and I think everyone in this endeavor can be proud that through Anselmo's team and LA Sands team. The education center is upstairs. You'll be able to walk out on platforms and look into the treatment area. It has over 20 languages that will be educating the children, the adults that come to tour the facility. It's trying to reach a much broader group. And I think we're all interested in educating about our industry and the safety and how important it is. We're really taking that extra step to bring them into the story.
Well, that's very reflective of the complexity, again, the mix, the diversity that is Los Angeles, by having that, right? And now I know I can come to the education center and I can, work on my next foreign language as I'm doing, can I really understand what the heck these people are saying? So that's good. So let me finish with this. I mean, we cannot get to there. We sort of talk about local projects like this and lots of good things that are going through it. None of this happens without a lot of leadership, a lot of oftentimes pain, trying to bring public policy folks along to make critical decisions. And this is not their expertise, right? Let's be real. You and I, we get to kind of develop an expertise here, but you're trying to get city council people, state legislators, congressional members. They got 1,000 things at their, fingertips, and they're making decisions off of how we educate them. So tell me then, so we're going to do this. It's happening. It's going to be real. You're going to deliver. Jacobs, I've heard it. They're delivering on time, on budget. Actually, I heard Joe under budget somewhere along that line. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Where are the lessons going forward? What does this mean? And how do we, Anselmo, you sort of talked about it. Other people are looking at recycling, but what does this really mean? And how does this expansion sort of fit into long-term road mapping for achieving resiliency, not just for LA, but as you described, for the greater Southern California region?
I think that being able to work on these kind of projects and actually complete them, it brings validation a lot of times to these concepts when it comes to recycled water. There are a lot of people that say, oh yeah, it's a lot of theory, it sounds good, but until I see it, I don't believe it. Well, now they get to see it. The other thing that's important, I feel, with this particular project and what it can do for the region is that it's an opportunity for us to develop basically a template that we can use for other projects. And we can demonstrate we've done this before. We can apply the lessons that we're learning at Tillman. We can apply them at Hyperion. They can be applied in other cities, in other municipalities, where they can say, okay, now I see how it's been built. All these projects that we keep talking about when it comes to recycled water are projects that require collaboration amongst many agencies. No single agency has control of wastewater and drinking water and all in one house and everything is easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes building trust. It's having the right governance. So we've learned a lot in this process. A lot of what we've done at Tillman, we're applying to Hyperion as well. I think we've been able to benefit and learn from what Orange County was doing. Now you see San Diego's got pure water, Metropolitan's got pure water, Southern California, Las Virgenes has their own project as well. So the entire region is learning from each other. And the great thing about the water industry too, Charlie, and you know this, we're not competing against each other. So sharing information, talking about what works, what doesn't work is extremely important. As we move forward with recycled water, advancing recycled water, the ultimate goal for us, obviously, is direct potable reuse. So having these type of projects where you can do pilots that demonstrate the efficacy of these treatment trains, information that we can provide to the state board for them to take a look at it, it's going to benefit everybody. At the end, we want to make sure that everybody's confident that the water that we're serving is safe to drink and the technology that we're using are reliable and that there is no redundancy to make sure that no off-spec water is getting into our pipes. So really, that's the benefit of this kind of project. And in the future, how we use this to demonstrate that we can even go further. That's the great thing here. The sector is a sector that collaborates, cooperates, we work together, and this is a great example of it.
Quirky things pop into my head as you're talking like that, Anselmo, but what comes immediately to mind? No waste in water. There's no waste.
Absolutely.
Not in any of these projects, not in anything that we're doing. Eileen, how do you see this long term? What do you see in working with other partners of yours in the environmental community and within the watersheds beyond just Los Angeles? Do you see this as having a long term impact? And how do you think that may be of value as you go to your colleagues in other parts of the state and the country?
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on what Anselma has mentioned about trust. So that building of trust, right? That takes time. That takes a lot of effort to build trust and to maintain that trust. And starting here locally it's going to be really important to continue to build that trust with those that are involved in the project, that are going to be impacted by these projects. And keeping that education going and the transparency of what's happening and how folks can stay involved. And that's true throughout the state too, because there's a number of different opportunities that we have, going back to reducing our reliance on the imported water, right? That's just going to be this mantra that we're going to have because we need it. We need to be relying more on our local water supplies, especially with the unpredictability of what climate change will wrought on us. So I go back to that building that trust, that communication, that education, the sharing the lessons learned. That happens locally, it happens regionally, it happens throughout the state. And I think that's really going to keep moving these projects forward and helping us understand what more we need to do to become more educated ourselves and share those lessons out with others and invite them in to be part of the process because we need an educated citizenship to know how to make these decisions and to know what the benefits and the value are of this really important local water resource.
Joe, how about you? I mean, you as a company, obviously, you get to you can go anywhere and bring your knowledge, bring your to other agencies. But how do you see this project, and how do you utilize this as you sort of work with other clients in other regions?
Yeah, Charlie, we often when we work across the country. I've done water reuse outside the country. Um, Clients often say they'd like to be a client of choice. I think that does resonate really well with the contracting and subcontracting community. It helps when teams want to lean in and work for you, work for Anselmo, work for LA San. So we highly suggest the agencies and the locations that are endeavoring this type of treatment or these mega projects, you know, bring us in. We want to work for you. I often, I heard Eileen mention it, but in this case at Tillman, we studied the wastewater flow. We found water at Tillman that maybe we didn't know they had. And that's often very beneficial because, and someone mentioned, this is a competitive solution. If you find a few extra million gallons in the wastewater plant and you're designing and building this, it's just very good economy to capture every drop that you can. We did single element RO testing as looking for emerging contaminants and can we protect against those. So I just highly recommend we lean into the technical aspect. You be a client of choice and let us help solve these issues.
Well, Joe, Eileen, and Samo, I want to thank you for bringing this to us and being able to talk about it. It's a very exciting project. I mean, it's hard to get excited sometimes about infrastructure. People's eyeballs kind of roll back in their head. But when you're actually pouring concrete and you get cranes, you get people moving, it is kind of exciting, right? It takes me back to being a kid. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to see the finished product. And Joe, when Jacobs delivers on that promise on time and under budget,
Under budget, I get it. Message loud and clear, Charlie.
that we're going to be there. I want to thank you all for bringing this to us. If I get anything out of these conversations, I think Eileen, you said it right. It's educate, trust, and the more our folks, whoever they are, right, see, hear, understand, they'll advocate on their own special interest.
Right.
And if they have the information, they can make an informed choice, and we're there to help them, fill in those gaps and answer questions if they have any. So for all of you, thank you so much for being with us on What Matters Water TV and Podcast. I'm going to come back with some closing comments here in just a minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Well, thanks for joining us on What Matters Water TV and Podcast. If you like today's discussion, then go wherever you download your podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. That'll help us build our presence in this new world and on this new format. And if you're interested in helping sponsor this program, please reach out to us at SoCalWater.org. That's SoCalWater.org, and send us a message. As we close out today's show, I leave you with this challenge. Be a part of the conversation. Be a part of the solution. At the Southern California Water Coalition, we educate to advocate. So as public policy leaders have difficult choices, together we help them make informed decisions. We thank you for being with us, and we will see you again next time here on What Matters Water TV and Podcast.